defensive line, it's been one of the tenets, the landmarks of this program for the last 6 or 7 years. Of course, that 2018 unit is legendary. This group that has decided to come back with KJ Henry, Tyler Davis, and Xavier Thomas, good to go there. There's a couple spots on the field, though, offense and defense, that we wanted to hit on because we've got some NFL departures that could impact. And, of course, Justin Ross has been the number one receiver for the last few years. Frank Ladson also left to go to Miami out of the transfer portal. So wide receiver for 2022, who do you think are the candidates to step in?
You know, Clemson, that's a position that Clemson just got killed with when it came to injuries this year. By the end of the season, they were starting 2 true freshmen and Dabo Sweeney's son, Drew Sweeney. One of them, whichever Will Sweeney. But there's just injury ravaged at that position all season long. Justin Ross was no exception. He played most of the season with a foot injury and finally injured it to the point he couldn't play no more late in the season. But looking ahead to next season, you know, there's some talent in that room. They got to stay healthy. Guys like E.J. Williams, he's entering his 3rd season. Big season for him. We were looking for a big jump in his development as a sophomore in 2021. Like everybody else in that room, injuries held him back. He had more than one injury. You know, he had an injury on one of his hands. He injured his knee. It just seemed to be one thing after another. He just couldn't consistently stay on the field. Another guy that's I think needs to step up next year was a freshman this year. His name's Troy Stellato. One of the biggest things lacking in Clemson's offense this year was the lack of a true slot receiver. You know, one of those smaller, twitchy guys that could serve as the quarterback's safety valve, you know, when he gets in trouble. And Clemson just didn't have that guy this year. And I think Troy Stellato can develop into that guy. He redshirted as a freshman. He didn't enroll early last season, so was kind of behind the 8 ball coming in. Clemson's, there's a lot to learn in Clemson's offense. They ask a lot of their receivers. So he was just behind the 8 ball from the beginning, got hurt. He was another guy that got hurt towards the end of the season. So, you know, he just took a red shirt. And if he can learn the offense and get up to speed and all the mental stuff, I think he can be a big contributor next season. And another guy to watch out for in the slots, Brandon Spector. He'll be back. He missed all of this season with COVID issues. I think they were going to rely on him a lot in that slot role. And when he was unavailable, you know, there was just really no other options behind him, as evidenced by having to move Justin Ross into that spot. And it just didn't work out the way a lot of us thought it might. But other guys that step up are the 2 true freshmen, you know, the 2 Collins guys, Bo Collins, Dakari Collins. I think those are 2 guys with very high ceilings. Dakari, you know, he's a 6-foot guy, 6'5" guy, goes up and high points the ball. He can be a real weapon in the red zone, has some speed. You just need both of those guys to just kind of take that next step in their development. A lot of times we see big jumps between your freshman and your sophomore season. We need to see that with these guys. They're going to be relied upon heavily next year. And the last but not least, Joseph Ngata. You know, this is a guy that's been hurt more often than not, just hasn't been available. And next year is it's going to be his 4th season. He's got to stay healthy. He's got all the talent in the world. He's just got to put it together, and he's got to be available.
Ngata caught 23 balls last year at 19 yards per catch. So when he got his hands on the ball, he made big plays with a touchdown there. Bo Collins, 31 catches. Dakari had 16. Stellato with 2. And E.J. Williams, we've seen some flashes out of him, more so before 2021, but he caught 9 balls for 73 yards this past season. And it just always works hand in hand. You know, there's criticism on DJ. Certainly he could play better and needs to play better, but much of his issues has to do with the offensive line, but also the receivers dropping footballs. Can the receivers play better? Obviously, they can play better, but their production is going to be better if DJ's going to get them the ball in better position on a regular basis. So it all falls hand in hand. But those 3 units on the offensive side certainly all need to improve if Clemson's going to be what they've been in the past.
Yeah, I thought the receivers, overall in 2021 were vastly disappointing. Dabo Swinney sold this group as possibly the best wide receiver group he's had to date. I remember him, telling the media before the season, take a picture of these guys, man, that this is the best group yet. And, it just didn't work out. And I think it was for a lot of reasons, most of it injury-wise, a lot of it to do with the inconsistent quarterback play. But even with the inconsistencies at quarterback, these receivers had far too many drops this year. And there was just a lot of inconsistency, some miscommunications, routes not getting run the right way, and it started in the season opener against Georgia, the big pick 6 that caused Clemson. That was a route that Justin Ross just didn't run as precisely as he should have, and it led to the interception. And, those things kind of, seem to snowball sometimes on a young quarterback, and that's partly what happened with Clemson this season. And all eyes are going to be on those receivers next season. There's no doubt about it. I see on the message boards and on social media, Tyler Grisham's kind of, taking a little heat from some of the fans for the way the receivers performed this season. Big season for him and that group next year. Clemson needs to get back to the level of play that we're accustomed to seeing at wide receiver, because what we saw last year just isn't going to get it done.